Hi there, and thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast. We feature those who are in the process of overcoming or have overcome any type of life encounter, life obstacle that at the time seemed to be almost insurmountable. With this podcast, we have three objectives in mind. Our first objective is we want you to know with a confident resolve you are not alone. We want to work with you. We want you to know there are others who are working with you, who want to help you through whatever you are encountering, and together we will get through whatever you're experiencing.
Our second objective is there are multiple options for any life encounter you are facing. We want to help you develop a resolve that there are various options and solutions to any life dilemma.
Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If you're encountering something that was possibly a decision you made sometime in the past, and if you had the opportunity for a life redo, you would make a different decision. We want to help you with those critical thinking skills that can help you make an informed decision and not encounter what you're going through at the moment. We are the Cooper Culture, a veteran-owned business. We work with business personnel and families to develop and sustain connected relationship cultures within their families and organizations. That type organization is one where people feel wanted, appreciated, and genuinely a part of that organization. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty, who has helped me facilitate this podcast. Today we feature Dr. John Degarmo, who talks to us about children and some of the challenges children have, what we parents, grandparents are dealing with in terms of raising children. He chronicles a part of his life starting with having lost his first child, but then he's adopted 3 children, he and his wife, and he discusses foster parenting, but also some of the challenges that kids are going through. And Marty, some of the things that children are going through include human trafficking, people who know and take advantage of children's vulnerabilities. A lot of those vulnerabilities start in the home where they lack the love. Then they're searching for love and acceptance that they're not getting at home. What are some takeaways our listeners can gain from Dr. John?
I appreciate Dr. John's message about foster care and people that want to foster children and the resources that they can go through to find out about being a foster parent. Also, the love that they have. They make sure that they're compassionate and that they really want to do this. He fostered 60-some children throughout his time of being a foster parent. It's sad that home life can be so bad that a child has to be taken away from the parent. He talked about how many times these children are moved from foster care to foster care and how that affects them. It's heartbreaking, but there is help out there, and he said, you do your research and you will find ways if that's what you want to do to help children.
Dr. John has a great story for reaching out to kids with our heart. Let's listen and learn together. Dr. John, it is good to have you with us. For our listeners who may not be familiar with you, you lost your child at birth, and that became a pivotal moment in your life, and you have a passion for children, and you're reaching out to children, and it seems through parents and the like. Marty and I have a very similar passion for children from just a different perspective, mentoring, so to speak, and we are mentoring several. Dr. John, it's good to have you with us.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Dr. John, are you principally focused on foster parenting, or in what aspect do you have your outreach to children?
Well, I do it through a number of areas. Thanks for asking. I have been a foster parent myself to over 60 plus kids and have been blessed to adopt 3 of those children. But what I currently do is I work with foster care agencies and child welfare programs to improve the system, to train foster parents to better equip staff members and caseworkers as they work with foster parents and kids in foster care. I work with legislators to improve the system, to help reform the system. And I work with a lot of nonprofits in order to bring awareness and create more advocates for this.
Thank you for everything that you are doing. I would ask you, one of our objectives of this podcast series is to inspire, encourage others to engage. And by engage, reach out to children, others who may have a need. And my hope is we would be able to be aware of those who have a need and just have a heart to reach out to those. Is there any special qualification for a person to reach out to others? Do you need a degree, or is it just a caring heart? That's a very open-ended question.
You mean to be a foster parent?
Either to be a foster parent or to, let's just say, reach out to a child, a person who may be hurting. Do you need a special qualification for that?
Well, it's two questions. So let's look at the first one. In order to be a foster parent, there are a number of things you have to do. First of all, you have to, if you're married or you have a partner, you really need to discuss it with your partner, your spouse, because it's very much a full-time commitment from the two of you. You both have to be on board, as well as members of your family. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a big house. You don't have to you don't have to be married. You can be single. You just have to have a heart for kids. And then after you've made the decision that you want to become foster parents, then you'll contact your local child welfare agency in your area, whether it's a state one, whether it is a private one, whether it's a faith-based one, whatever suits your best interest. And then you begin the training. There'll be background checks, police checks, homes inspections, things like that. And then after you are fully trained and are licensed to become a foster parent, then you begin that wonderful journey. Now, everybody does not have to be a foster parent to help kids in foster care. In fact, I often say not everybody can be a foster parent because to me, it's the hardest thing I've done. It's been the most rewarding thing I've done, but it's been the most challenging thing to be sure. And not everybody has that in them. So, but again, everybody can help in some way, whether it is donating school supplies or hygiene items to kids in foster care in your area, whether it's being a mentor, whether it is if you have own your own business, maybe hiring some youth who are in foster care to teach them some work skills, whether it's donating brand new suitcases to these children, because oftentimes they're placed in homes with just plastic bags collecting their materials and items. And that's just the beginning of many, many ways people can help kids in foster care without being a foster parent themselves.
And so let me ask you about mentoring. Marty and I are mentoring some students. We call ourselves surrogate parents. We are not legally adopting, and we have not gone through any training to be a foster parent. We've just chosen to work with those who have a need. How could a person who has a heart to reach out, but they don't feel they want to go the distance, if I could use that term, of going through the process of being a foster parent? And I guess what I'm referring to, Dr. John, is mentoring or just being a partner to another child, and you just want to help that child with their growth.
Well, there's a great program called CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocate. Court Appointed Special Advocate, CASA. There's also guardian ad litems. Guardian ad litems are in some states, CASAs are in other states. It's a volunteer program where people volunteer to be a representative, if you will, for the children placed in foster care while in court. So the kids have a voice in court, if you will. And these CASAs or these guardian ad litems, they spend some time with the children getting to know them so they can better represent them. That's one wonderful way. Many times kids in foster care do have some type of mentor, if you will. But then again, that's something you really need to contact your local child welfare agency to see if kids in foster care are looking for a mentor, because these are children who have suffered considerable trauma and are filled with a great deal of anxiety, including issues of trust or attachment. So it's very, very important that anybody who works alongside these children are vetted in some fashion. We all know that not everybody has the best interests at heart, if you will. So again, if you want to be a mentor, as the two of you wish to do, then you need to contact your local child welfare agency and say, hey, what does it take for me to help these children?
Is the local welfare agency run through your local county? Is that who sponsors these programs?
It's different in every state, it's different in every county. There's 50 different states, which means there's 50 different ways of doing foster care because there's no federal one. It's all done by the state. Your best really interest though is reaching out to your local child welfare agency again, whether it's a private one, a faith-based one, or a state one.
Marty and I perceive there's a fair amount of, when you say trauma, trauma can occur in maybe hundreds of different ways, but it's our perception that sometimes the social media creates its own form of trauma. I say its own form, but do you see that as a potential source of trauma? Do we need to reach out and work with those people who might have just the wrong, what we consider wrong thoughts that are generated through social media?
Well, make no mistake, there's lots of dangers on social media today. A lot of our human traffickers are contacting children and forming relationships with them through social media, online technology. And it's a very, very dangerous place for those children who have no parental influence, strong parental guidance, if you will. So, social media, yes, is very much a danger for our children today in a number of ways. And unfortunately, much of society does not recognize it. I recently was interviewed by Fox News about the dangers that social media present when it comes to child sex traffickers or human traffickers contacting and getting kids who are the most vulnerable.
Let me pursue that a little bit further, Dr. John. And we are aware of human traffickers, and we're not directly involved with, but I am concerned about our granddaughter, for one, but others who may be chatting what they think, maybe very innocently with someone, that person, that someone on the other line through some chat function might be leading them into something nefarious. Is there a way we as parents, grandparents can pick up on anything a child might say that, that thought may have come from a trafficker or something like that? What I'm asking, Dr. John, is that sometimes we don't know about what our children are doing because we're not side by side with them 24 hours a day. They pick up on different things. Is there something that can help us be aware of something that we need to pay more attention to what our children are doing?
Oh, there's a number of things. There are so many signs, if you will, that a child might be in a relationship or in danger from a predator. Yes, there are many, many signs, both physical and emotional. But most importantly, there has to be constant vigilance from the parental figures in the child's life, from whoever that child is living with. Those people, those parental authorities, those parental figures have to be always constantly watching to see what's going on. You cannot leave a child with a device all day long and expect nothing to happen. So, if a child's living in your home, first of all, you got to set time limits. Second of all, you have to have those discussions with the child that, there are people out there who want to hurt you. As an adult, as a parent, you need to be checking your child's social media sites and accounts and texts to see who this child is talking with, who this child is having a conversation with, what type of games this child is playing, because there are many games out there, online games, where predators will join the children and form relationship with the children in hopes of luring them into trafficking. And sometimes parents will say, well, I don't want to invade my child's privacy. And I say that's rubbish. You're not invading the child's privacy. You're protecting the child from danger. And if you're not going to do it, then who is? So those are probably the most important things you have to do as a parental figure. Monitor what the child is doing, check the communication, who's reaching out to the child, who's the child reaching out to, see what type of games they're playing, limit their time online, and have those conversations on a regular basis.
Let's unwrap that a little bit further, Dr. John. I appreciate everything you are saying. For the listener who may say, and they might even be thinking, I don't want to invade my child's privacy. and we are of the same mindset. No, I want to protect my child. For as long as you're under my roof, within my watch, we're going to do everything we can that we believe to be very appropriate to protect you. But is there a way that, I'm going to use the term, Dr. John, that there's some of us and some of our listeners who were invented before the internet, were invented before social media and the like, and we don't have any idea what all is out there. We are very aware there are people with nefarious intent. We are not of that variety, and I think most of our listeners are not. How do I become aware of what could be an avenue for those with a nefarious intent so that I can very knowledgeably protect my children and grandchildren?
It's a pretty simple answer. Some might not like it. You got to do your research. You've got to do your research. It's always constantly evolving. Social media and online technology evolve on a daily basis. So, what might have worked last year might not be working today. So, you have to do your research and find out. There are many, many filters that you can place on devices which will filter or block the children from going to certain sites. Unfortunately, that is not prevent a child from being reached out by a trafficker. So do your research, maybe get some filters or some devices that will block the child. But again, it comes back to that consistency. And it's okay as an adult, as parental figure, to say, you know what, turn off the device, go outside and play. Let's work on a puzzle. Let's read a book. Let's cook a cake together. Let's do something else together.
Is it, from your perspective, appropriate and almost necessary to tell a child, a grandchild, you're not going to be on the iPad or any kind of device without me being right there beside you? Is that an overreach?
No, not at all. Not at all. Again, we're living in a world right now where human trafficking is the number one global business. The number one global business is human trafficking. It's all around us, it's in every single community. It's okay to tell your child, turn off the device. It's okay. But forget the human trafficking aspect of it. Just the social and the mental health aspects of a child being online all day long are not healthy in the least when it comes to communication, when it comes to physical health, mental health, and so much more. To be sure, a child is very much going to benefit from not being on a device all day long because there's so much more for them to learn, living skills, social skills, communication, and so much more that they're not going to get online.
Is it fair to say the, I'm not sure the term narcissist is appropriate, but it may be, but those who want to prey on a person's vulnerability know exactly what questions to ask. They know exactly how to manipulate you. They will know almost immediately if you have some vulnerabilities I can exploit. Is that the mind of the nefarious person?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Our listeners need to be very aware. There's some who may say, I just don't want to invade their privacy. But yet, if the child is left alone, and we have interviewed some people who say, I feel abandoned, even though I'm in my house with other people. If the person feels they're not getting the attention they want, they feel they're unacceptable or anything of that nature, they might reach out to someone who can meet their need. Is that a scenario with which you're familiar, Dr. John?
Yes, many times those children who are most vulnerable are looking for someone to love them, looking for acceptance, looking for normalcy, looking for someone to communicate with them, have a relationship with. And there's so many children in our society, in our nation, who don't have that. We live in a country where 5 million children every single year experience domestic violence in their own home every single year. Many of these children are going online looking for someone not to hurt them. In fact, to show them the love that they're looking for.
And some of these children carry these childhood traits into adult life. They may feel, I can't even discuss these things. They may feel, I'm not even sure who I can discuss these things with. Is there an aspect of earning the trust to be a safe space for children that you can discuss these things with me? I'm not going to go anywhere in the wrong direction with them. Is that one part of just reaching out to children?
It is. It is indeed. Absolutely right.
And so it is a matter of, it seems, if we have the heart to reach out to children and we can maybe identify, we're not looking for, but we can be aware of different traits. And those traits may be something along the line. I'm forming this as a question. The child just seems to be alone. They want to isolate. Maybe they feel difficulty garnering friends, those kind of things. Are there other traits of children, people, that might indicate they are vulnerable to the nefarious person?
Usually, children who are abused, who have suffered some type of abuse, are often victims. It's a cycle. A cycle repeats itself many times. Children who are coming from homes where there's not a strong parental figure in their life on a consistent basis. Children who are coming from homes where they're ignored or where they're not placed as a priority in the adult's life. These are children who are often victims of human trafficking.
And not a strong parental influence. Are dads a large part of that? The question is not referring in any form being in a domineering way, but the dad stepping up to be, and I'm going to use the term, Dr. John, that any male can be a sperm donor, but it takes a special person to be a dad. And that dad is a person who genuinely cares for, and they're aware of his influence within the family. That's the kind of dad I'm referring to. Are there some families who don't have that nuclear framework in place that could be vulnerable to could have children who are vulnerable?
Sadly, there are far too many children, like you just expressed.
I want to encourage the men who are listening to step up and be the dads of our families. I think there is a way, Dr. John, and you can help us, but I think there is a way to not appear to be domineering, but rather, let me just use the term, I am the protector, and I'm going to protect you by keeping you away from those who may have some kind of nefarious input. But I want for you to know, child, grandchild, that I'm here to protect you. I think being a foster parent, mentor, just having that special relationship with a person, that's my perception of how we can help people. Certainly add your perspective, Dr. John, if anything I've said has been too overly simplistic.
No, no, we do a deep dive into all this in the book Keeping Foster Children Safe Online. And it's a book not just necessarily for foster parents, but for anybody who has a child in their life, because there's so many more dangers besides the human trafficking aspect of it that's on social media. And you and I might live in an online world, but our children inhabit that world. Our children inhabit that world. And there's a big difference between the two.
What was the name of his book?
Keeping Foster Children Safe Online.
We are going to note that in the narrative section of this podcast and encourage our listeners to get that book and engage with you. As we do our research for the person who wants to reach out and help a child, is there a website? Is it your book? Where is a place a parent, a grandparent could go who says, I just want to have a better understanding of what's out there so I know exactly those things of which to be aware?
Sure. I have a lot of articles that I've written, as well as several interviews with major news outlets on this very topic. If you visit the Foster Care Institute, and go to my articles page, you'll see many articles about this topic, including articles on how to recognize human trafficking and how to prevent it from happening.
Do you have a newsletter that you publish periodically?
I
Can
do.
our
I
listeners
do.
subscribe?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I have one that comes out every week, a weekly newsletter.
Let me encourage our listeners to go to your website and subscribe to that newsletter. Can the parent who would like to have a dialogue with you, Dr. John, is that possible? Or is your schedule such that it's difficult for any one person to have a dialogue with you?
Well, thanks for asking. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as would like it to be. I do offer consulting sessions where people can have a 30-minute hour consulting session with me. We talk about these topics. I am more busy now than I've ever been, and that might be because we have more children in danger than ever before.
And I believe that is likely the case. Do you sponsor workshops where you possibly have an outreach to larger groups of people that maybe a person can learn that way in addition to subscribing to your newsletter?
Yeah, as I travel cross country on a regular basis, doing such workshops and training opportunities and keynote speeches. Yes.
So you travel across the country. Is it just a matter of looking for you to see what your schedule is? And I guess maybe I would ask at this point, do you publish your schedule on your website?
I do not publish on my website, no. But it's often on social media, though, my Facebook page or maybe Twitter or LinkedIn.
What is your Facebook page?
Dr. John Degarmo, foster care expert.
And I encourage our listeners to, is it a matter of joining that group, Dr. John?
Yes, just following me on there. Correct.
We will encourage our listeners to engage with you just that way. Our listeners, I feel, just need to be aware of the different things that are out there that a lot of us are not aware of, the various avenues that those of other intent, those who want to take advantage of children. I'm guessing for every, let's say, filter, for every method to help identify those who want to go about our children in the wrong way, is probably that cat and mouse game all throughout. Is that a lot of what you deal with?
Yes, yes, it does take up a lot of my time to be sure.
Dr. John, thank you for the work you're doing. We will do everything we can to promote you, your website, your work. And on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for everything that you are doing. We need to learn from people like you what the human traffickers are doing, what is happening in a home environment. I know there's some children who just feel different things have happened to them, but they don't feel they have the avenue that they can even discuss it because that's just not the culture in which they were raised. Some people go through decades withholding information, and it's having a very detrimental effect to some people. And it seems you have a way we can identify those kind of traits, and it's up to us to reach out to and establish a friendship. Again, I don't want to overemphasize or oversimplify anything.
Well, I often call human trafficking America's ugly secret. It's something that's all around us, yet we don't want to talk about it or address it because it makes us feel uncomfortable. It's in every single community, and most likely it's happening to a child that we know.
Wow, that is very interesting. The human trafficking could be occurring within our family, and unless we are aware of some of the traits, we wouldn't even know it's happening. Is that how pervasive it is amongst us?
100%. It may be happening to our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews, and kids that we might go to church with. And we might not want to recognize the signs again because it makes us feel uncomfortable. We might want to deny it's happening because it's such an ugly truth. So we don't get involved. Yes, all the time, every day.
I was just going to, you really answered my question. Is that because parents just don't want to face it? They don't want to believe that their child would get involved with that.
It might be that, or they might not want to believe that the adult that they know is performing such horrible acts, or there might be guilt by the parental figure that they didn't stop it beforehand. There's a number of reasons why.
Yeah, we have a granddaughter that's 17, and when she gets online, we ask, "What are you doing?" and we check on her and make sure that there's not this little tab at the top that you click, "I'll chat with you," and stuff like that. We do watch it. We're not with her 24 hours a day like her parents are. We're trying to be on top of it.
Right, right. Very good.
Through your newsletters, we can learn more about some of the tricks, if that's the right term, the human traffickers are using to get access to our children and grandchildren? Is that the process we can learn about this?
That's part of it. My newsletter, my website, many articles, the book, and then again, doing your own independent research as well.
Dr. John, on behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for everything you are doing. And I hope our listeners will truly engage in this and not just dismiss the possibility that something of which we're talking would never happen to our children or grandchildren. It is very possible. It is happening right now. We're just not aware of it. But I think the more we are aware of some of the symptoms, we can identify at least the possibility of, and I think you said very eloquently, we can't overprotect our children. We're doing it in a very cautious, very loving way. And when we do that, I think we'll ultimately be effective. We just can't afford to give up our learning and everything that we're pursuing.
Very good. It's very true. Very good. And I appreciate you bringing awareness to this issue.
Dr. John, on behalf of our listeners, thank you for everything you are doing, and we look forward to continue our journey in networking with you. If that's even possible, stop these human traffickers, the others who want to take advantage of children, identify and eradicate this. It's going to be a long-term project, but let's engage and let's do what we can to work together to identify what's happening to our children.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
We appreciate having the opportunity to share our and our guests' life experiences with you.
The Cooper culture advances organizations to achieve and sustain high retention rates, connected communication, and trust through personality insights and principled leadership. You can contact us at our website, thecooperculture.com, and you can contact us directly at ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, Marty, at thecooperculture.com. We work with you to help assess aspects of your culture to advance the environment and people to their best performance. We do that through our staff of certified personal performance coaches, leadership trainers, keynote speakers, and DISC personality behavior experts. You can book a speaking engagement directly through our website by contacting us at ron@thecooperculture.com. We look forward to sharing our life experiences with you, some of which are profound, some of which are pretty funny. Some of those life experiences are ones we'll never do that again because we've been through stuff. We truly look forward to working with you, speaking with you, helping advance you in any way that we can.